Hi, today I'm going to present you my new painting, Delightful Reality. So in this painting, I want to show how you have within the sphere of the digitized interaction, you have a new fictional politic and how the reality progressively is shifting to new stories implemented by algorithm driven by productivity. At a first glance, you can see a very complex organization and a kind of chaotic vision of different patterns. This chaotic vision is made of recurring elements and is dragged, visually speaking, on the top and in the middle, where I embedded the collage of the Leviathan from Hobbes. So I'm going to present you how I did the painting step by step. So first I started with the background, and the background is divided in two parts, the top and the bottom. On the top, I took my inspiration from a photo that I found in the news about an encampment of homeless people in front of the city hall in San Francisco. So for me it was really important because the city hall is a symbolic of political organization. You had the encampment of homeless people. With the way they did it, they were completely separated and distanced. So you had first a kind of visual attraction because the photo is beautiful, but also this kind of beauty was really linked to a kind of reality that we don't want to see because it's an encampment of homeless people, and those homeless people are supposed to be separated, so they can't really be together because of the pandemic. But if you expand the thinking about separation, it's also an economic separation with the surroundings. Secondly, the bottom of the painting is made of a photo I took during my bike riding in Houston, and it represents the soccer field of a small school. So the soccer field is not really wide, and also this soccer field was completely inside barriers, inside a gate, so you can't really cross. You have a kind of barbed wires that you can't cross. And for me, of course, the school is a symbolic to education, and the soccer field is a symbolic of game, and of course in politics how you use a kind of a gaming thinking, because you have certain rules that you have to follow, and in the thinking of gaming you always establish rules that are not exactly the same as you have in, I would say, the civilian traditional life. This background is made of acrylic, and then I add drawings, and those drawings are a symbolic of networks, so different type of networks. For me, they are the representation of our digital self, which is really important because you have your physical entity, you have your digital entity, and the digital entity is becoming more and more important in the society, and especially in politics. because you have to read or to be fed with digital information to be aware of what is happening around you. And then I embed some collages, and those collages are really linked to the thinking and to the meaning of the painting. So for this painting, it's about the fictional politic and the fictional reality. And it's how the more you are implemented by algorithm driven for a certain productivity, the more you separate yourself from others, because as we try for information, most of the time we go in our biased view in certain canals of information, and we have the tendency to not cross each other. So if you think that those information for a productivity, an economic productivity, because the people who are making the information, they need to be retributed for their work. So you have advertisements, things like that. So it's quite well known that you will follow a certain trend of information, and those information will come more and more in the way you would like to see the future to keep you engaged. And those kind of organization is creating a kind of chaos to keep you more engaged. So it's like you are fed by certain informations, certain knowledge, others in their own category are fed the same way, and then sometimes you have an interaction which is really strong, and on the background you can think that just algorithmic implementation is there to make you in your own line then cross each other, have a kind of chaos, and to see in those different groups which are chaotically meeting which one will prevail and which one will decide of the major trend, to then bring others to this trend to keep them engaged. And you can see it in the attention economy, and to make more productivity in the digital spheres. To illustrate that, the kind of chaos and how also within the chaos, as we can be destabilized, we have the tendency to lean towards a central power. And to illustrate that, I took the Leviathan of Hobbes, because it describes how society is organized within the thinking of the human as a machine, and how the machine is fed by all the small entities, and how they converge together to implement a certain dictatorial thinking, or democratic thinking. It depends, but you have this kind of concentration. And then what I wanted to do also, because it's really important to focus to the past, I embedded some collages of the book La France Pittoresque from Abel Hugo. So it's a description of France in 1835. So it's like data. Abel Hugo was recording sceneries, so he was making some sceneries of different parts in France, but also he recorded the population number, the income in each city. So it was for me a kind of historical data. So the first collage on the left side is a representation of Paris, and I liked it because you can see some kinds of borders which were surrounding the city at the time. So it's important because you always need to think about the fact that in a time of a pandemic, we surround ourselves with kind of borders, but also not only physical, as we will wear masks, but also digital, as we are distanced from others because we don't see each other the same way we did before. And also I embedded some places within the city, so it's like the main places, and it links to the fact that on the background, as I described, I represented the city hall, so like places in the center of the city as a location of reunion. And finally, I embedded the collage of Abel Hugo with numbers, and it's if you can see its numbers about how you earn money, things like that. But for me it's really symbolic because currently we relate a lot about numbers within societies. In fact, numbers are becoming more important than instinct, and as we relate also on algorithms are driven by productivity and are made of data driven also by numbers. So it's really the fact that I think we are more and more losing our natural instinct. We are losing our complexity of senses, and we replace this complexity of our senses with data compulsed by algorithms. And finally, I put some collages of ICBM R7 to mark the notion of war and how you have a kind of chaos, a political chaos, and how this chaos is organized by the idea of war against an invisible enemy or a visible enemy, but most of the time the enemy is far, so is invisible, and also how it marks the fact that it's embedded within the society, within the fact that you need chaos, you need a kind of purpose to reunite people and to reorganize society. And really at the end, when I finished everything on the background, I did the collages, the drawings. Also, I implement some shapes with flash spray paint and flashy paint to establish a kind of organization and to point also the notion, the intellectual notion within the painting. I like to draw a wide shape, a transparent shape, and this one acts as a kind of a window you want to cross or not. It's like you have open sides, but it's more linked to the fact that you have a strong reality that is too hard to take. So you want to go into the fictional reality, into the fictional politic, to be able to absorb all the information you have and to absorb the fact that you might not be in control, you might not be here to see the truth. I hope you like the presentation and see you for next painting. Bye bye.